Cars flew past, faces turned away, and not a single hand reached out. The frail woman trembled at the curb, clutching her cane, invisible to the rushing city. Then came Jamal, barefoot, clothes torn, a paper cup of coins rattling in his hand, while others whispered and judged. He stepped forward, steadying her across the chaos. But as they reached the other side, a sleek car stopped. A man stepped out, stunned at what he saw. In that moment, Jamal's small act of kindness unlocked a chain of events that would transform his world forever. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. The city moved like it always did, fast, loud, and blind. Cars roared through the intersection, engines humming, horns blaring, tires kicking up little clouds of dust. Office workers hurried along the sidewalks, heads down, eyes glued to glowing screens. A delivery bike cut across the curb, nearly clipping a man, but no one even flinched. And right there, stuck at the edge of the crossing, stood an old woman. Her white hair, thin and brittle, whipped in the breeze as she clutched a wooden cane. The hem of her coat trembled against her legs. She squinted at the blur of cars, each one flashing by like a wall she couldn't push through. She lifted her hand once, just slightly, as if to step forward, then froze. Her shoes barely shifted on the concrete. She breathed out slowly, lips pressed tight. It wasn't just the traffic, it was the loneliness. Nobody slowed down. Nobody noticed. Two young men passed by with coffee cups, one whispering to the other, "Poor thing. Shouldn't even be out here." The other shrugged. "Now my problem. Somebody else will stop," and they kept walking. A woman in a pencil skirt glanced over her shoulder at the old lady, then rolled her eyes. She muttered to her friend, "She's blocking the view." Honestly, people need to take care of their own. Even a child tugged at his mother's hand, pointing at the woman. "Mom, she looks lost," but the mother pulled him along. "Don't stare, baby, come on." The old woman lowered her head. Her knuckles widened around the cane. She shuffled back half a step, trying not to cry in the middle of the street. The lights changed again, green to red, red to green. But for her, it was all the same, an unbroken wall of motion. She could never get through. Minutes dragged by. The air was heavy with exhaust. The stink of gasoline mixed with the smell of roasted peanuts from a street vendor nearby. The city pulsed around her, indifferent. And yet she stayed frozen at the edge, invisible to everyone. For anyone watching closely, the saddest thing wasn't just her fear of crossing. It was the way she seemed to shrink with every passing second, like the world was erasing her. One glance, one laugh, one ignored plea at a time. From across the street, where the shadows of tall buildings stretched long, a boy lingered, not dressed like the others rushing by. No polished shoes, no pressed shirt. Just a thin torn hoodie with the zipper stuck halfway in shorts that had long outgrown his legs. Bare feet pressed against the hot concrete, the soles toughened from days of walking without shoes. He wasn't part of the crowd. He was outside of it. People brushed past him as if he were part of the pavement itself. A fixture nobody wanted to acknowledge. Some held their bags closer when he came near. Others gave that sideways glance, the kind that cuts deeper than words. He was small for his age, maybe 15, but his eyes, they held something older, a kind of tired wisdom, the kind you only earn when life forces you to grow up too fast. In one hand he clutched a wrinkled paper cup, coins rattling weakly at the bottom. Pennies, nickels, maybe a dime or two. Enough for bread, never enough for a bed. The boy's stomach growled, but his gaze wasn't on food vendors. It was fixed on the woman. She was still there, still trembling at the curb. The light changed again. People moved like tides around her, and still no one cared. The boy hesitated. He could have walked on, he had enough troubles. His mother lying in a hospital bed, needing medicine he couldn't afford. Every minute he spent here was a minute wasted, but something in his chest pulled harder than hunger. He stepped closer. Bystanders noticed, whispering. "Look at that kid," a man muttered. "Where's he going barefoot like that?" another asked. A third voice chuckled. "Bet he's about to ask her for money. Watch." The boy ignored them. He approached the woman slowly, his bare feet slapping the pavement, his little paper cup clinking softly with each step. He stopped at her side, tilting his head up to meet her frightened eyes. He didn't speak much, just offered a small hand, the hand of a beggar, dirty, thin, but steady. The woman blinked, startled. For a moment she almost recoiled, but then she saw something in his eyes. Not pity, not mockery, just quiet courage. With a trembling breath she placed her wrinkled hand in his and Toj. There they waited for the break in the traffic. The lights flicked red, car slowed, then braked in a jagged line, impatient engines revving as if even stopping was an insult. A driver drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, glancing at his watch. Another leaned on the horn, annoyed before the crossing even began. And there they were, the frail old woman and the barefoot boy standing at the edge. The boy took a breath, tightened his grip on her hand, and stepped forward, one foot on the asphalt, then another. The city seemed to hold its breath. Or maybe it was just her heartbeat pounding in her ears. The boy moved slowly, steady, shielding her with his thin frame as if he were a wall. The woman shuffled beside him, her cane tapping unevenly against the paint of the crosswalk. Halfway through, a car jolted forward, its bumper jerking close. Gasps rose from the sidewalk. The boy lifted his free hand, palm out, his eyes sharp, warning the driver without words. Some people watching actually stopped walking. A couple teenagers with headphones pulled them down. A street vendor leaned on his cart. Even impatient man with a coffee paused mid-sip. Conversations rippled through the crowd. Is that a homeless kid? Can you believe that? The rest of us just walked by. Crazy world. The one with nothing is the only one helping. Step by step, they made it across. By the time they reached the other curb, the old woman's shoulders sagged with relief. She leaned heavier on her cane, but her hand still clutched his, unwilling to let go too quickly. That's when the sleek black car rolled to a stop just feet away. Glossy paint reflecting the city lights, tinted windows lowering with the smoot hum of hidden wealth. Out stepped a man in a tailored suit, tall, sharp-featured, eyes restless until they froze on the sight before him. His breath caught. Mother. The crowd's chatter died down. People shifted, curious now. The boy glanced up, unsure, but didn't release her hand. The man, her son, had been on his way to meet her, to pick her up himself. But instead he arrived to witness something raw, something that shook him in an instant. His own mother, frail and vulnerable, rescued not by the countless strangers who ignored her, but by a barefoot boy with nothing to his name. And in that moment, the billionaire's world shifted. The billionaire stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement. He reached for his mother, steadying her arm, but her wrinkled hand still lingered around the boy's. She didn't release him, not yet. The man's gaze shifted downward, really seeing the boy for the first time, the dirt on his skin, the thin frayed hoodie, the paper cup with barely any coins inside. Who are you? The man asked softly, not out of suspicion, but out of something closer to disbelief. The boy lowered his eyes. He shuffled back a step, uncomfortable under the weight of stairs. Around them, bystanders had gathered, whispering, "Is that her son? The rich one. Look at his suit. That's no ordinary man. Why is he talking to the kid?" The boy swallowed, his voice quiet but steady. Just someone who helped her cross. It might have ended there, just a fleeting act of kindness, if not for the way the old woman spoke. Her voice was frail but firm. He didn't have to stop, but he did. Everyone else turned away. The billionaire studied the boy again, his expression unreadable. Then, almost reluctantly, he asked, "Where are your parents?" The boy hesitated. His hand tightened around the cup, coins rattling faintly. "It's just my mom, she's in the hospital." Silence pressed heavy over the moment. Even the crowd seemed to lean closer, he went on, words tumbling now, rough with honesty. "She's sick, real sick. I try to get money for her medicine, but it's never enough. I beg, I run errands. Sometimes I skip meals just so she can eat, but the bills keep piling. I don't think she has much time left." The boy blinked fast, his jaw trembling, but he held himself tall. He wouldn't cry here, not in front of them all. The old woman's hand slipped into her son's again, her eyes wet. She whispered, "It reminds me of you. Long ago, when you were small and helpless, someone helped us. And now he's doing the same." The billionaire's chest tightened. He looked at the boy, not as a stranger anymore, but as a mirror of a past he thought he'd buried. And for the first time in years, he felt something stir in him that money couldn't buy. Gratitude and a sense of responsibility. That night, the boy sat in the dim hospital room beside his mother's bed. The faint beeping of the monitor was the only sound, steady yet fragile, like her breathing. He held her hand, thin and cold, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Then the door opened. The billionaire stepped inside, his mother at his side, her cane tapping gently against the tiles. Nurses followed with hushed urgency, carrying folders and equipment. The boy jumped to his feet, confused, protective, but the old woman smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It's all right. We're here for—" or her. In minutes, doctors were gathered, flipping through charts, arranging new medication, adjusting machines that had sat idle for too long. The boy's mother stirred, color slowly returning to her face as treatments long denied were finally within reach. The boy watched, chest tight, not daring to believe. The billionaire spoke quietly, his tone different now, not commanding, but warm. "From today on, her bills are mine. She'll get the best care, and so will you. No child should have to carry what you've carried alone." Tears pricked the boy's eyes, but he bit them back, nodding fiercely. Gratitude weighed heavier than words. Weeks later, the transformation was undeniable. His mother stronger, walking again. The boy no longer begging on the streets, but studying. His clothes clean, his stomach full. And still he carried the memory of that one afternoon. The moment he chose to stop when nobody else did. The city never knew his name. Strangers forgot the sight of him leading the old woman across the road. But for the billionaire, for his mother, and for the boy's family, that act became a turning point. Because sometimes destiny doesn't come crashing down in grand gestures. Sometimes it begins with nothing more than a hand reaching across a busy street. This story proves that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life forever. If you believe in the power of compassion, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs hope today. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us humanity still exists.